Love your business, but don't fall in love with your business. If you're going to get into a partnership, you really need to know the person. And I don't mean like, I've known them, they're a friend for life. Okay, but here's the question. Are they going to do as much work as you're going to put in?
How can you help us, though, continue to help you? First, please subscribe to the channel. Like us. If you listen to the audio version, leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you see our posts, please share those posts, share the content, and link back to our law firm website, which helps us to continue our SEO marketing and grow our firm and help small business owners. Hey everyone, Mitch Beinhaker here again. Welcome back to another episode of the show. If you are listening on a directory, you're watching YouTube, you may see the commercial in here about supporting us and liking us. But if you're listening, leave us a 5-star review. You can like us on YouTube so we can keep growing the channel, keep connecting with cool people like Bryan. We're going to talk to him in a minute, and keep sharing good information, having good conversations with people who care. So if you are listening and you hear some things and we give some advice, just remember these are for entertainment purposes only. We're not your lawyers. We're not your professionals. You should talk to and get advice from local counsel, local professionals before making any decisions. So, Bryan, thanks for joining me on the show. I know you're down in Georgia.
We're both
East Coast guys, right?
Yep.
And maybe you want to start out with your background and your story.
My background is I grew up in a little town called Lawrenceville, Georgia, and it was truly little at the time. Now they have an overpass. At 57, a lot has happened in that town. I haven't been back in a while, but a lot has happened there. They've really grown. As soon as high school was over, I took off for New York, and I worked in production for photography more as an assistant in New York and different places before I ended up. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Then I ended up getting hired back to Georgia for a company that was doing 3D. Do you remember the 4-lens cameras from the 80s?
Yeah, I think that was
early 90s. Well, I worked for that company.
Okay.
And we did a lot. It was an R&D lab.
That was the first 4D type of technology?
3D, yeah. So that 3D technology was lenticular. So there were little tiny lenses that were in the plastic material there were 4 or 5 or 6, depending on how you printed it, images underneath it that you couldn't see that were printed in stripes, and the lenses in it would give you the parallax that made it look like it was 3-dimensional. So it's a lot harder to explain. I'm trying to make it as simple.
You put the glasses on and it jumps out of the page?
Didn't need a glass.
Video?
No, this was just a handheld picture that was 3D in your hand. And
you didn't need glasses or, anything?
Nope.
Wow.
Didn't need it. It ended up failing. It was expensive. And the company tried to do a lot of things very cheaply. And there's a whole other, you could probably do a Netflix series on it. At one point they'd swept the place for bugs, and there were bugs from a competitor in our offices. I mean, I had just gotten out of college. It was a very surreal experience, to be honest. I left that and went back into still production, and then eventually ended up getting into film and video, and had my own production company in Marietta, Georgia for many years. Worked at the AT&T stage during the Olympics where the bomb went off. I produced and directed and edited most of a golf show that I had on for a while, and a poker show on TV. And pretty soon, I'd always been an entrepreneur. I'd always had little side businesses I was opening up, and even starting when I was 14, getting my own little, mowing and gutter cleaning businesses going. And
right.
And since that time, to make it short as I can, I've owned a couple of gyms, some restaurants, another production company. And then as I got older and was working for corporations as consultants or contractors, I just got kind of bored with that. And I went into being an author, and now I have a couple books out, and probably have my third one come out, probably late next year.
Okay.
The first book that I had out 2 years ago was the real problems that are destroying education in this country. And that was based on, I had a company that I started with some partners and we made educational resources for K through
Okay.
12 schools and districts. And I met with teachers, hundreds, maybe thousands. I
Right.
met with, did speeches to districts and at all the symposiums and all of the conferences that they had all over the country.
Okay.
And a lot of what I saw was alarming,
Right.
to
I'm
say the
sure.
least. And so I really wanted to write a book and just kind of lay out all the different things that I saw were an issue.
Yeah.
And I was going to write it while we still had Scoobs. It was called Scoobs, and you can see Skubes. If you go to Scoobs Ed on YouTube, you can see there's about 1,500 educational videos on there you can watch for free.
All right.
I was very proud of what we did, but it was because of that. And then throughout my time traveling and doing documentary films and just doing other stuff and speeches and meeting with different people, I had a lot of little events happen to me, especially after my mom passed. And so the book that I released this year is called A Path to Faith Through Science and Common Sense. And it's just really, I interviewed 16 very highly credentialed scientists about different things from evolution to near-death experiences to all kinds of different things. And then I interviewed spiritual leaders, and I just basically tell the things that I had learned and things that I had experienced in my lifetime. And
is it
a lot of the
of
books
a debunking book? Is it a kind of a like debunk?
There's a little bit of debunking, but more or less, I just want people to give it a second thought. If you're on the fence, or if you don't think there's any evidence for an intelligence above us,
Right.
I'll leave it at that, because I'm not proselytizing for
yeah.
Jesus or Muhammad or anything.
Right.
But
Exactly.
I think that you should give it a second look. I think there's a lot of evidence out there that people are just not aware of. Most people don't have time to spend digging in that deeply.
No, they
to
just
that
accept
subject.
it for what it is. That's probably we
They
can do a
do.
whole nother show
Yeah.
on that. Over the years, I grew up very, not very religious, but Judaism was a big part of my life. And as I got to be older, it still is from an agnostic standpoint, but not from a, batshit crazy kind of religion type of stuff. That's
Yeah.
So, but that's what happens when you live in a modern world where you have explanations for things that thousands of years ago they didn't have any explanation for.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm reading some other book that's about, kind of like debunking a lot of that stuff. So that's interesting. So you really have, and you're pretty much self-taught when it comes to business. I mean, you kind of learned along the way, started a restaurant.
Well, my degree was originally in film and photo sciences, and then I went back and got a marketing degree.
Right.
So I am self-taught with business. And I tell people when I do speeches to small business owners that, some of the stuff you might not have read in another book. These are just things that I ran into or walls that I hit that no one spent the time to explain to me.
Right.
And I will say this, one of the things that I highly recommend, and I was much younger. I started my first business where I had to literally put out tens of thousands of dollars when I was 23.
Yeah.
And it was failing. I went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting.
Okay.
And I was asking around, and this one guy seemed to be a lot of people just kept wanting to talk to him. He seemed very magnetic. And I started asking, like, who's that? And they would say, well, he's got 3 businesses. He's very wealthy, but he's very difficult, kind of rude, kind of, straightforward. And I was like, I love that. I love that kind of guy.
You were 23 at this time?
Yeah, maybe 24 by then.
Right. So you're wet behind the ears. And
I said, I want to talk to that guy. So I walked over. He was talking to someone, and I waited my turn. And I said to him, I will buy you lunch once a month at any restaurant you want if you'll let me pick your brain about business.
Just sit and talk to me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he stared at me for a few seconds, and he said, okay, you're on.
Yeah.
He said, but I have a couple rules. And I said, okay, hit me with them. He said, I want you to bring a notepad.
Okay.
Because there's no point in trying to think you're going to remember everything.
Yeah, of course.
He said, and that notepad better have questions already predetermined, because we don't need to spend time for you to.
Right, he's going to waste his time. You're not prepared.
Yeah.
Sure.
He said, and you need to write them down as you think of them throughout the weeks. And he said, if you could agree to that, then no problem. And we continued doing that lunch for 2 years, long after I needed him. We'd become friends. That the last 7 or 8 months before that ended, we weren't even talking about business. It was just
friends,
family things that were going on.
Yeah.
Yes. And he mentored me a lot about family. And it's funny because I always tell people about judging other people. People can be complicated. And a lot of people thought he was rude and kind of this or that, but I saw him to be very generous to people, and particularly his employees, but he just wasn't out boasting about it. Like when I would tell people, like I remember the house burned down and near where my office park was, and there was an anonymous donor of $25,000. Well, it was him.
Yeah.
He didn't need anybody to know, and he didn't care.
Right.
And I remember one time I said to him, and I was young, so I probably thought I was being altruistic in a way.
Right.
I said, my wife at the time she's giving me these presents. And I said, I don't like getting presents. I just feel weird about it. I don't like it, but I like giving people presents.
Yeah.
And he said to me, so you're an asshole. And I said, well, why do you say that? He's like, because the joy you get in giving the presents, you're denying to other people.
Right.
And I hadn't thought about that. And I was like, okay, well, I really can't argue that point. So he became more of a father figure over time. But he was very helpful in business. Like I would come to him and say, look, this is what my tax person's saying. This is what the letter I got from Georgia Department of Revenue.
Right. And
he would tell me how to manage it, what to do, what to write, and how to frame the stuff that you're writing back. When it came to doing bids to businesses,
sure,
he would give me advice that was always pretty spot on.
He had a lot of experience.
Yes. And I was in my 20s, so he would have been in his mid 50s, actually my age now.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you enough. Throughout the years it was him and probably two other men who were instrumental in maybe shaping how I do business.
Right.
And how I see doing business too. Because sometimes we get caught up. I always tell people this: when you start on a small business, a lot of times your whole thing is we need to make money. We need to make money. We need to make money. And you let that shape your decision making. But some of those decisions might end up hurting your business because you're making the wrong decision.
Particularly, because money's the result of those making good decisions. Not
and people coming back to your business makes you more money. But the easiest example of this is, someone asked me once to sit with their father for their business and just talk to him. They were going to pay me. And so I sat down and he was going over something, and he started talking about how customers will want him to refund for this. And I said, well, how much is the refund? He's like, it's like $35. And I said, then give it to him. He said, well, why? I said, because first of all, you're admitting that there's a problem with it already.
Right.
You're just saying that it's not that big a problem.
Right.
But for them, it is. And I said, and they're not coming back.
No.
I always use this example too. When you go to Chick-fil-A, if you wait in line too long, they give you a free sandwich card and tell you, we hope you come back. Yeah. They don't have to do that, but they understand that getting you to come back is harder than it is to get you there the first time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of us, if we think about it, I'm this way. When a business pisses me off, it takes me a while to venture back over to that business. And
And you know what? We all make mistakes, right? And assuming you're well-intended, you screw up. And if you're honest about it, and if you go to people and say, listen, we messed up, this doesn't work, we tried to do this, this is what we'd like to do about it, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, you know what? I'm not happy about it, but Bryan did the right thing.
That's absolutely true. I used to tell my employees at the restaurant that they'll forgive you for admitting the mistake. Yeah. They won't forgive you for denying it.
Right.
And they know when there's a mistake. We had a lady one time, she had ordered a lot of food for to go. And it was for a birthday party for her husband. It was a small party. It was just family, but it's 10 people.
Yeah.
So it was a big order. We got it wrong. I wasn't there, but she was very angry. So I drove in and she gave me a tongue lashing. She gave the kitchen manager a tongue lashing. And when she left, because I gave it to her pretty much for free and fixed it, remember the younger kid who was the kitchen manager said, God, lady's such a bitch. And I said, no, she's not a bitch. I said, I would have been so furious if I had driven an hour away with the food and had to drive an hour back, then had to drive an hour back again with the right order. I said, we screwed it up and we deserve to hear her out. She needed to be heard. And so you have to sometimes look at it like that.
Yeah, it's funny how this theme keeps reoccurring. I had someone on my show 2 weeks ago, so that means her show would, when this is being aired, is 2 weeks after her, right? And she has a business where they put together photographers and people that want shots done, baby pictures, engagement photos, headshots, whatever. And it's almost like an open table for a photographer. So if you're a photographer and you're not too good at business, you can, if you get admitted to her program, you got to get vetted and everything. She'll have the shoot set up in whatever city. They work in 60 cities. And you just show up and you do the stuff and you upload it. But there have been times, she said, where something got deleted, if photos got lost and the person had passed away, or you can't recreate their engagement pictures anymore, or the baby's grown up, whatever. Yeah. And there was times where they cost them $20,000 or $30,000, but she was always honest with people and always open and say, listen, this got screwed up. We're going to do whatever we can. We're not miracle workers, but we're going to do whatever we can to fix this. And, almost everyone was appreciative of that and didn't have a bad taste in their mouth. Just recognize that things get screwed up sometimes. But you're right. If you deny it and you stand behind it and you say, we're not doing that. That's not what you signed. You agreed to. You signed that waiver. We can't guarantee everything. They're going to tell everybody they know how bad your company is and your services.
They will. They absolutely will. It's the oldest adage in the world. People will tell all the negative stuff, but they'll forget to tell everybody about the positives. So you just have to stay on this positive side so that there's less negative.
Of course, because the positive, you're walking around, you feel good, but then you go on to the next positive thing. The bad thing happens and you're seething about it for the longest time, bringing up issues of this. And you're right, for $35, people will go out of their way because if they're pissed and they feel taken advantage of, that's what they're going to do. So that's
I remember talking to it was an older gentleman, and I said, look, whether it's $10 or $35, I don't want to waste $10 for something that I thought I was getting this and I got this. And I can't remember what it was. It was a food product. I said, but you're advertising this and you're giving them this. You need to change the advertising. He said, well, the advertising's set and it would cost me too much money to change it. I said, well, then you're going to have to deal with when people come in telling them that we don't have that product, but we have this one. And I said, so there's ways to mitigate this, but instead you're fighting with the people that you want to come and spend money with you.
To support your business, right?
And it's a short-sighted thing. And I think it's natural. It's like when somebody comes at you, look, I have a temper. I don't have as much anymore. I've gotten better at it.
Well, you learn, right? Me too.
And you get older, and but I used to tell people, if you come at me with your knives drawn, then I'm going to have mine drawn.
Of course.
And then we're going to duel. Yes. And let's not do that. Now
back to the wall.
I always tell people, like, I'll give you a good example of this. During COVID, we went into lockdown. Maybe the toughest time in life for me for business. I had a restaurant and 2 gyms. You would watch the nightly news and they would have a chart in order of the businesses you didn't want to go to.
Right.
Restaurant was number 1, gym was number 2. I was like, hey, I got number 1 and number 2. I should be.
There you go.
But that wasn't the right list. And so, people weren't coming in. People forget now how scared people were. So at my gym, I had 1,400 members. I lost 850 of them in 4 months. And while that was happening, people were challenging. They died.
You're saying that they stopped coming.
Yeah, they were fearful.
Yeah, I didn't. I suspended my membership for a year and a half. I didn't go to the gym.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I remember.
People were bouncing their credit cards. They were challenging their credit card charges. They were It was a mess. I mean, money was flowing out of the account faster than in. And I remember we went into lockdown in March.
Right.
And the day that they locked down here in Georgia, 2 days before that, the billing files for all of the membership drafts went through because it was time for the memberships to bill.
Right. Of course.
Well, people must think that I sit at the desk and run them all manually or something.
Yeah.
I would get not a lot, but if 1,400 members and 10% of them send you evil emails, that's a lot of people to read who are ripping on you. But some of them would just, the headline of the email would be like, "You're an asshole." And they would be like, "How could you bill people when?" I was like, "Look, all you had to do was say, I want my money back. I would have given it back to you. You didn't have to start at the top of the,
you're right though. That's what you said before. People jump to conclusions and assumptions about people. I try, because I obviously as an attorney, I mitigate people's problems all the time. So I try to tell clients that, my experience being 58, almost 59 years old, right, is that usually people are good at heart. So if something looks wrong, they didn't do it the right way, they're probably not doing it intentionally or with malice. They're having a bad day. They missed something else happened in their life. They found out they had cancer or their wife's divorcing them or whatever it is, nothing to do with you. And, go to them and say this and this. And then 9 times out of 10, they're like, "Mitch, you know what? I talked to Bryan and Bryan said, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. We fixed it. It's all good."
Yeah. I tell people all the time, even now at my gym, I say, "Look, if we make an error, just come to me.
Right. Please.
We'll talk about it. If it's an error and it's our fault, I will fix it. You don't have to go to your guns drawn. We're not having a duel. We either missed something or we made a mistake. That's the end of it." And sometimes you're right. You don't know. I write in the faith book, the story that always made an impression on me. I used to live when I was in Lawrence, I was younger. Across the street from our neighborhood was a little convenience store gas station. And for a while after I graduated high school, there was a guy who worked there who seemed, he was always disheveled and he was very rude, hard to get along with. And sometimes if I saw his car parked there, I wouldn't even go in.
Right.
But one day, because I had known the lady that owned it, I said to her, "He's probably hurting business. You should fire that guy." And she said, "Listen, that guy's father molested him, and so did his uncle. His father committed suicide when the police showed up to investigate. His mom ran away with someone else. He's had a life that you can't imagine." He's like, "I'm not taking this job away from him. This is all he's got."
Yeah.
And he said, "And he will get better as his life gets better." I remember feeling like such an asshole when I left.
You feel terrible. People
because you don't think of that.
Passion, not right. Exactly. There's usually something going on in their life that they're like that. It's not because they're just nasty people. As human beings, we're just not built that way. I mean, there are some people that are nasty, but I think even ones that are really nasty people, there's something deep down that has caused this, that happened to them or whatever experience that they have. That's, and I always try and tell people, if you take a different approach, right? Especially learn this in business. If you're nicer to the customer, whatever bad things happening to them today, it's not your fault. Help them out and they'll appreciate you for it. And I think that's like one of the main lessons of running a business and maintaining relationships with clients. It's not just about keeping in touch with them. It's about, especially if you're in like the businesses you're in, like restaurants and and gyms and things like that, you're dealing directly with people that interact with your business on a daily basis, right? So I think if we take a softer approach to that and kind of say, "Hey, I wonder why he's so mad. Like, let's figure that out and see how we can help him." Or
in my neighborhood growing up, there were a couple brothers who were bullies. They were like one was 2 years older than the other. They were well known in the neighborhood. You were going to fight them at some point because they picked on everyone.
Yeah.
When I look back on it, I had witnessed their father and their mother beat them, berate them. They were hurt by their parents and they were taking it out on other people. And
They weren't
but
born
when
that
you're
way.
younger, though, you don't see that. You
No.
just see the person coming at you who
Right.
wants to hurt you.
Yeah. Well, you have an adolescent brain and you have no life experience. So
Right.
it's very
Right.
hard. That's why getting into business. Look, the smartest thing you did at the age of 23, 24 was to go to that guy and
Yeah.
and ask him, because my dad was a salesman all of his life. He was in the insurance business, financial services, and I grew up around an insurance sales guy. You know, I learned sales and I learned how to do that kind of stuff. And when I came out of law school and I didn't know what I was going to do, he said, "Listen, here's a list of guys I know who are all successful. Call them up, have a cup of
Hmm.
coffee with them every month for the next 12, 18 months."
Oh,
And not
good.
only did I learn and build, but I built relationships and I got comfortable with things. And you learn a lot. And I still give that advice to people
Yes.
today, because that's you're self-taught, but not really. I mean, there's always somebody who's a mentor who
Yeah.
intervenes, who you learn from.
Yeah.
Guy's experience you can't replace, you can't get from school.
Well, my point back then too was that somebody has already done this, and I don't know why I want to spend the next 5 years making mistakes to learn them.
Right.
Someone knows what to do. And I remember when I sat down the first lunch with him, I said, "Look, this is a production company. I can produce anything, any video, any commercial, TV show. We've got tremendous capability, but I don't know how to run a business." I said, "I know I can, I charge people, I bill them,
Right.
you
A
know,
lot
and
more than that.
do I need, like, do I pay my people this way? Do I do this? How do I, like, I have people who work, 20 hours, some work 40. And then, how do we need to expand in the office park? Like, he was very, when I needed to negotiate bigger space, he was, I think he probably saved me $30,000, maybe more, because
Right.
he knew enough to say,
Right.
this is how you go about it. And I would tell anybody that there's somebody out there who's already been through what you're trying to master.
Of
You want to
course.
start at the end of their knowledge, not behind them, and try and learn it all from scratch again.
Right. Yeah, no. Success as a business owner and entrepreneurism does not require that you somehow figure it out on your own and, wow, I made it. Because first of all,
Yes,
you won't make it. And second of all, that's just pig-headedness. That's just stupid. And look, I
it
give you a lot of
is.
credit, because at the age of 23, 24, I don't know if I was clear-headed enough and not too egotistical to think that I should be getting help from other people.
I
It's
think it
hard.
was the scare over losing, because I didn't have that much money. I had enough money to open the business, and I
Yeah.
was scared of
And
losing
you're
it
like, I
and
got
failing.
nothing. Yeah.
And because you're right, I will say this: one thing we've left out of this conversation is that, particularly with men have trouble asking for help.
It's really just our biggest shortfall.
It is. And
Right.
so I did not, but I've never been that way. Like, there's all comedians in in the 90s used to do jokes about how men never stopped to ask for directions.
Right.
That's not me. I don't want to waste 30 minutes trying
Yeah,
to
you're not
find
embarrassed
something.
that you're asking.
Yeah.
You think if you're
I just
wasting
pull
your
over
time,
and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this. Where is it?
Yeah.
I just want to get there. I
Right.
just want to get there."
Right.
So I never had that in me, but yeah, I do have pride when it comes to asking for help. But I think there was just the fact that this was all the money I had, and I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I got it right, because I didn't have a fallback position to get it wrong.
Yeah. So kind of fortunate that you were kind of forced to make a good decision and to go to somebody and say, "Hey, what'd you
Yeah.
do? How'd you do it? Talk to me." Right. I want to
Yeah.
learn. I have no room for error anymore.
Yeah. My dad was a CPA my whole life, and didn't teach me anything about money.
No,
No.
I'm shocked.
My dad was very conservative with money, saved a lot,
Yeah.
made good money. And his whole thing, because my dad was very risk averse, though.
That's what attracts
So
people to
opening a
business,
business,
right?
opening a business was not in his wheelhouse.
Right.
That seems too risky.
Yeah.
And so I really couldn't go to him for that kind of help. It's funny too, because he did taxes for a lot of small business owners. So I know
Right.
he
So
saw the
them.
potential.
Right, of course. Yeah. He probably saw them and be like, "I don't want to be that guy,"
Because
they all struggle. I mean, you see a lot of that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So especially if they're small, 2 to 5 years, they're all struggling. And
Mhm.
some of it's because, like you said, they're not doing the right things. They're not asking for help. They're not taking the time to learn things. or even write things down. This guy
Yes.
said, listen, if you're going to come and talk to me, you're going to write it down. You're not going
Yes.
to remember anything.
One of the things I carry with me, I bet you there's some. Yeah, there is. Look,
There you go.
I make a list, a to-do list every single day of my life.
Yeah, me too. I can't function without it.
I do, because I'll get sidetracked, and then I'll get off of what I need to do, and then I'll be like, oh, I forgot to get.
Yeah.
This
if
keeps
not, every
me
day is a
on.
fire drill, right, Brian? If you don't
Absolutely.
do that, it's just a fire drill.
That was one of the things he impressed upon me. He's like, you're going to have a lot going on, and you're going to have a lot of people coming at you. If you want to get your stuff done, you got to write it down so you can check it off. And if you don't get it done that day, it goes to the top of the list for the next day, and it has to be the first thing. He said, otherwise, you'll just meander.
So I break my pen into 4 sections because, as an attorney, I got some people that have deadlines or whatever. So I have like urgent in the top left. I have important to the right. I have pending down there. So if the urgent thing's taken care of, but there's something else that has to be done, I move it down to pending. And then there's not so important, but they still have to be on my radar. And I'm always moving. It's an erasable electronic pad. So I'm always moving names around as I do things because I'm the same way as you. I go crazy coming in and thinking, oh, what do I got to do today? What deadline do I have? What clients? I can't operate that way. And I have responsibility to not operate. You hire me. Maybe you're getting your calendaring from one software and you're invoicing from another. Evenoo is a platform that we use as one of our sponsors to run our entire business. And there's other features like auto payments and integrations with QuickBooks. Visit evenoo.com, EVONUE.com to learn more. There's also a link in the show notes. And be sure to tell them that the Accidental Entrepreneur referred you. This podcast is brought to you by our affiliate sponsor, iEmployee. iEmployee is a virtual assistant service that hires almost anyone for any role in your company right out of the Philippines. Most roles range from $7 to $9 an hour for highly skilled and experienced VAs. And whether you need an executive assistant, social media manager, video editor, customer service, sales, you name it, they have it. We use iEmployee for our VA services, from editing and promoting the podcast to all the PR and promotion of our law firm. iEmployee acts as a virtual field supervisor on the back end with live video monitoring and reports on a daily basis with screenshots of your VA's workday, and along with complete HR and payroll duties. No more paying for overpriced and underqualified workers. There's a link in the show notes to get a 1-week free trial, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. I gotta get it done for when you need it.
Yeah. I think that if you have such an easy life that you only have a few things to do each day, well, good for you, but that's not my life.
People don't exist.
This is just today's. You can see most of it, but one is marked off. Yeah. Actually, that might be you. It is. Okay, so I get to scratch the whole list. That's nice. Yes. But, if I don't do it, I will get off track. Something will pull me away, and then someone will say, did you get such and such done? Like,
right. Yeah, and then you feel at the end of the day, you feel like you didn't fight the right battles. Like, it's okay to fight battles and even lose or not get things done, but at least if you did it and you focused on it and you know what's coming next, like you didn't get to something, but you moved it to the next day's list, right? So it's on the list. I can go home, decompress, and then I deal with it, and then come back and fight tomorrow.
And I've done days where I got lazy and didn't do the list. And then maybe a day later, someone said, I thought you were going to email me that.
Right. And you're like, shit, I fell off the wagon again. Yeah.
I did.
Right.
So it is good for me. The list thing, I try and impress upon every young person that works for me to do the list. It's not, most of them, by the way, won't do it.
Right.
I would say maybe 10% or less.
I know.
But I tell them, if you just try it for a month, I promise you.
Yeah,
you will feel so much better.
Yeah, wish my children would listen to me. My son works. I'm like, listen, and he's very ADHD. He's all over the place. But so am I. I mean, I said, you got to make a list. You got to write it down. You got to keep your list. Move the things up. Cross them off. You'll feel better about it. You won't feel so overwhelmed. Yeah. Life is good at overwhelming people.
I think that too. What happens is we get arrogant and think, I'll remember that. Do you know how many times I've said that to myself, and then later I'm like, what was it I was trying to remember?
Oh, yeah. It kills me. Now, I'm at the point now where I tell my kids, if you want me to remember something, if you don't send me an email where it's in my inbox, it's not going to happen.
Or I tell my daughter, I'll say, text that to me because I'm not going to remember in an hour.
Texting. And they make fun of you. Like you,
because the same thing goes on with my employees. We pay for an app where you put in what your availability is for each, setting up the schedule.
Got it.
But they'll just text me and say, hey, I need next Thursday off. I'm like, okay, I'm never going to remember.
You got to use the
Put
system.
it in the app.
Right. Yeah. So it's for the restaurant, like it manages your staff or the gym or whatever?
This is the funny thing. I sold the restaurant, but this was a software I discovered when I had the restaurant, and now I've just converted it to a gym, using it for the gym, which means I don't use all the features, but it's a fabulous app. I love it.
No, I mean,
it's 7 shifts if anybody wants it. They don't pay me enough.
7 shifts?
7 shifts, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
if somebody says I can't work it, then someone can pick up the shift. It's
right. Well, that's the whole point. Like, you set up a system to make it easier on everybody. You got to follow the system. When somebody says, I need to talk to you about this, this, and this, I said, fine, I'm available tomorrow at 10:30. If not, here's a link to my calendar. And then they write back, well, I'm not available tomorrow at 10:30. Can you do it 3 tomorrow? I said, I don't know. Click on the link.
Yeah. I haven't looked at my own calendar.
Right. I don't know until I didn't know we were talking today till about an hour and a half ago. Like you
I didn't remember thinking until last night.
That's what it is. Yeah. And that, I think those calendar programs and the shifting programs for the restaurant, that probably saves me like 3 or 4 hours a week.
Easily.
Just to make
easily
it
for all the positives and negatives of the cell phones we have in our hands.
Right.
That is a positive. Easily.
Yeah.
I can look at my
if
calendar.
Not, you just go back and forth and back and forth. It's especially if you have multiple people you have to coordinate a meeting for. Forget about it.
Now, you say you do your list digitally. I still do mine on paper. I literally have probably 30 tablets of different shapes and sizes. My employees, when I had the restaurant for Christmas, would give me notepads because they were like, and I was like, I'm a cheap present for this, but I was like, I need these because I will fill them all up every day.
You keep them all too? You have them all or no?
I won't keep them forever, but you can see this is, as long as this is here, I can go back weeks and weeks and look at things, but eventually
that's what I
used
to do. I used to have a paper when I go back. So now I use this thing. It's called Remarkable. It looks like this. And I can write on it. And you can save different files. So my to-do files, I can go back and forth. I'll see if I can find it.
Is it like the Rocket Notebook that they had?
Yeah, it's similar to the Rocket Note. There's a couple of different kinds. So this one, you see how I have the different things. So I can just change the names. Probably revealed half my clients' names, but I can change the names, erase them, move them around, and then I don't really have like multiple pages because it just keeps changing. The one.
Now,
page.
Can you go back to previous days?
If I do it that way, if I make multiple pages per day, I can. But if not, if I erase them, move the names around, I don't, because I track my business through a pipeline another way. But it's all, it's like you said, you can do whatever fits your lifestyle. If paper works, there's Moleskine, there's all kinds of books out there. If you like to do electronic, you mentioned there's several different options. You probably do it on an iPad too, but do something. Don't make yourself crazy. First of all, it's not just making yourself crazy. You won't be efficient. You won't get things done, and you won't be successful if you're not have some sense of organization and a grip on what you're doing. It's just
it takes away a lot of anxiety too, to be honest.
A lot of anxiety.
Because sometimes you can look at the list and go, "Oh, the day isn't that bad." Okay.
Right, of course. And Bryan, how anxious do you get when you say to yourself, "I got to remember that," and then 2 hours later you're like, "What was that? Was I supposed to remember?"
It drives me nuts.
Makes you crazy.
When I used to do more writing for TV, and you'd be kind of trying to come up with ideas. Right. I would be falling asleep and be like, "Oh, that's brilliant. I'll remember that in the morning."
And you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
Of course not. You got to keep.
And so I would rack my brain for an hour going, it had something to do with.
Right.
So I literally used to keep a notepad beside the bed. And if I had to wake up at 1:30 and jot down a note, I did.
Yeah. Because if not, you're thinking, if I go to sleep, I'm going to forget it now. So I got to remember. I'm the same way.
I will forget it.
Yeah. So it just goes away. It's as we get older. I think when you're young, you think you have these perfect memories, but that is not the way our brain works. Our brain is like a box with sticky notes, and the sticky notes are stuck on all the wrong things, right? So you're sure that this happened, you were going to do this, and you and I had this podcast on that day, and I'm like, I don't do podcasts on Tuesdays. That wasn't me. You're like, well, who the hell was it? Yeah, and that's
there's
how to run a business.
Comedian named Brian Regan. I think he's the one.
I know Brian Regan
about
very
the
well.
sticky notes, where he talks about how you have to look up at the sticky notes that are in there,
right?
When you're thinking, like, I read the sticky note. But the thing is that I think a lot of times with younger people too, it's just a moment to younger people, and I was the same way. You get lazy. It's like telling your kids you need to do this or
Right.
that to make their
Right.
life better. I try and tell them, when you get your paycheck, don't spend it all. You need to put 25% of it here and do that, and try not to bother that 25. But they're not going to necessarily do it
No,
because
and a
they don't
lot of
want to
us
take the
live paycheck,
time.
right? And that's why we all live that way, because we're not very disciplined when it comes to doing the
No.
things that we should be doing.
Yes.
You know,
And the moment you dig into that 25%, by the way, it's like a bucket that you poked a hole in.
just
It
deferred
starts to,
spending. It's not really savings.
yes,
You know,
that's true.
I mean,
But it starts to
that's
come out faster than it went in.
yeah. So, it's the people that develop those habits that as they get older into their 30s and they're saving, they're just in a different habit. They're not in the habit of spending, they're in a habit of saving. And it's
Yeah.
hard. It's very hard, especially nowadays when you're trying to be successful in business and everything costs you money and life, and you don't have a pension anymore. There's no company behind what you do.
Yeah.
You try to create value and get through it. So,
Yes. Well, and a lot of people just don't plan well. When I used to do my speech about the 10 things that small business owners do that hurt their business,
yeah,
the very first thing I would say is raise your hand if you've done a business plan.
right. Me
And
too. I say that all
maybe
the time.
maybe a
Nobody.
third of the audience would raise their hand and
Yeah,
say the rest of you don't even need to be here
right.
because you shouldn't have a small business that
Right.
you
You
don't have a
skip
plan
step
for.
one. Right.
Yeah, yeah, you need, like, how do you know? They're like, well, I know it's going to work because I've worked in this industry for this long. I'm like, okay, but that you didn't do that. Wasn't your business.
Right.
Somebody else was doing a lot of the back end work,
Correct.
and there's so many variables you need to put. If you can't see it work out on paper, if you can't see the financials work out on paper, it's not going to work out in real life.
No way.
Because you
No
can
way.
fudge the numbers on paper, you can't fudge them in real life.
No, it doesn't work. And it never even works out on paper, but at least paper, you see things coming and you can I get people call me all the time and they're like, oh, Mitch, I need help. My business is struggling. I got to get out of my lease. I got to shut. I go, well, why don't we start? Let's take a look at your business plan.
Mhm.
Crickets on the other end of the phone. I mean,
I don't get that.
I'm like,
Maybe
what are
I
you doing?
I can't remember if that was something that I learned from the mentor or if it was just not.
Innate?
I think I just did it. I think I
Yeah.
just wrote it down. Now back then, yeah, I went out and got a book on how to write a business plan, which was
Yeah.
very complicated.
Yeah. It doesn't have
Now
to be
there's
that
stuff
complicated.
online you can pick
Right.
up for $20 a month that'll let you walk you through it. There's no excuse.
Correct.
There's no
Brian, you
excuse.
could even do what's that thing called, the lean canvas, where you have like a one pager to start with
Mhm.
quadrants. I mean, you could start
Yeah.
with almost anything. Just write this shit down. It just bothers me so much when I talk to people
Yeah.
and it's like if you came to me and said, Mitch, give me $50,000. I'd be like, well, why would I do that? You'd be like, well, you might as well give it to me because if you're going to spend it on your business without a business plan, good luck.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yes. Well, what's funny about that is I've had a couple of times where people came up to me and said, you know what, I did what you said. I wrote a business plan and I ended up finding all these things I hadn't thought about
Right.
that were expenses.
Yeah.
And like, okay, well, there you go. But unfortunately, you ran the business for 3 years without knowing any of this.
Right. Well, that's the problem, right? And then you find out the hard way.
Right. So
Part of the business
getting
plan
lazy
exercise.
about it
Yeah.
is if it means that much to you, and it does, if you're spending the kind of money that's most small, unless you're starting a yarn club in your house,
Right. It's just a hobby.
it's cost a lot of money,
Yeah.
and you should do more to protect
Take it seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I find it very frustrating, I think. So can we get into some of the other, you said there were 10 things. That
Yeah.
business owners need to- so we get one, which was the
Well,
best
not necessarily in this order. My second
Okay.
one is love your business, but don't fall in love with your business.
Right.
And what I mean by that is because I've seen a lot of people.
one. You make bad decisions.
They come and they say, can you help me? We're failing. And you take a look and you're like, oh, you've been failing for a while.
Right.
And they're like, I know, but we're this far. If we could just get this much farther, we'll be profitable. I'm like, I get it. You need to shut down.
Right.
I'm sorry, but you need to shut down. And here's why they won't shut down, because it's their baby. And I understand that. The Scoobs I talked about earlier was technically a failure. It's I'm most proud of that business of all the businesses, but it wasn't
Didn't
making any
generate
money.
profit. Wasn't making
And
money.
so it had to go.
Right.
but you fall in love with your business and you can't let go of it.
Right.
So you should love what you're doing. You shouldn't get into a business that that you absolutely hate doing the work. But you can't be so in love with it that you can't recognize. It's kind of
Right.
and the reason I chose those words, by the way, is that how many times have you had a friend who's in love with someone,
Oh, yeah.
but that person is
Oh,
not treating
yeah.
them right?
And you're like,
And
why
they
are you in
won't
this
see,
relationship? And they're
yeah,
like,
they
oh, but I
can't
love her.
see. I know.
Hello?
Well, the same thing with your
Yeah,
business. Your business
right.
is treating you terribly right now. You really
Right.
need to break up with your business. And that's why I have that one.
Yeah, and
The other
I
one
think
is
people
that
are so
people will
committed
cut.
to whatever it is they're doing, right? They're so committed. They've put in so much time. They've been working
Yes.
their business, their career, whatever it is, that they feel like, how could I walk away from this? I put in so much. But that shouldn't affect your decision if it's not a good thing to be doing.
Yes. Be proud of the work you did up to then. And
And
you
the
got to
brave
move
people
on.
make changes, not the people who aren't brave. If you're not brave, you stick with it and you blow it.
Hmm.
If you're brave, you make the change. So I'm sorry,
Yes.
you were getting to number three.
Well, the thing about that is there's always the notion. I've even done this where you think we're this close.
Right.
We're this close.
If we
You're
could
like, well, you've been
just
this
make
close for
one
3
sale.
years.
Right.
Okay. Is it going to take 5? I don't
Right.
get, like, where are we in the progression here? The other one is a lot of times when I ask people, well, what are you doing to save money so you don't go bankrupt?
Yeah.
They're like, well, we cut our marketing budget. And like, so, and then in the same sentence, they'll say, but we are also running some specials. I'm like, well, how do they know about the specials
Right.
if you cut the marketing budget?
Right.
I said, what I'd rather you do is trim other places
Yeah. Not
a
the
little
marketing, not
bit.
business development.
Yeah, I said, if anything,
Yeah.
you need more marketing. You don't have enough people coming through the door. And maybe that's because enough people don't. There's 2 reasons for this, if you break it down. Either they don't know about you or you've pissed them off in the past.
Right.
And if that's the case, well, then we're really needing marketing because you got an uphill battle to revitalize your image.
Right.
So that is one of the big ones. The other one is nowadays payroll can be done so easily. I use Gusto. They're not a sponsor. They don't pay me or anything, but you can use anybody. But they're cheap and easy online. They'll keep you out of tax trouble. Okay, they take care of everything for you. Don't try and do it yourself. This is a recipe for having the Department of Revenue hit you up years from now and saying you did it wrong.
Yep.
I got that. That happened to me, and I had someone I trusted doing mine.
A local person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so cheap and easy now. Just let someone who that way, and most of those companies, whether you're using Intuit or Gusto or anyone, they take responsibility. If we get it wrong,
Yeah.
then we're liable for the damages.
Right.
Put that on them.
Especially
And the other thing too is that you got enough to do as a small business owner. Why do
Right.
you want to do that?
You can become an expert at payroll. Like, that's ridiculous. A terrible waste of your time.
Yes.
You
The
know?
other one I have is, and I have made this mistake too many times, and apparently it took me like 30 years to learn. If you're going to get into a partnership,
Yeah.
you really need to know the person. And I don't mean like, I've known them, they're a friend for life. Okay, but here's the question. Are they going to do as much work as you're going to put in?
Right.
The other thing that often happens, and I had this happen when I bought my gym, we were 50-50 partners. And then when it came to spending money, I noticed I was spending 80 and he was spending 20.
Right.
And I said, the way this works is that we're 50-50 partners. Now we have an imbalance in investment. So
Right.
either that my extra investment either has to become a loan to the company, or you are going to lose we got to take back some of your partnership percentage. And he didn't want that to happen.
No, of course not.
I said, so if I'm spending 50 grand on upgrades, you got to spend 50 grand. And we agreed to do this together. It never happened that way.
Right.
And that was my fault. I didn't know the person deep or well enough. I knew them the surface.
Right.
The times that I've gotten into business with someone I thought was a friend, I didn't really know their work ethic.
No, you don't.
I just knew that I liked hanging out with them.
Right. Of course.
And
you like
that's
them.
no
You got along
reason.
with them. No, we make
Yes.
very bad decisions when it comes to relations and
Yes.
relationships and business. You talked about having a business plan. I find more partners, especially if they're friends, not having like well written or even any kind of partnership
Oh,
agreement
it's
that lays that
important
stuff out,
then.
like you said, that said,
Yes.
listen, if I end up putting in more money than you, it's going to be a loan on the books that I get back. So we are equal. And you got to do that
Yes.
ahead of time before you're all
And
screwed up.
what a lot of people don't know who don't have any experience in this, it's not easy to get rid of a partner just because they're not doing as much work as you. If you have common stock and everybody's got it, you can't just
No.
kick them out of the business. They are embedded in there now. So
Yeah.
now you've either got to buy them out or you have to talk them into leaving on their
Yeah.
own. And they're probably not going to want to do that
And by the
because they
way, in
don't
New
see it the
Jersey,
way you see it.
yeah, and in New Jersey and a lot of states, if you file an action because you want out of this business, partner won't work with you, the only thing the judge is going to do is partition your business. He's going to say, okay, well, let's separate the client list, separate the equipment, let's liquidate whatever you
Mm,
can liquidate. And here you go. Here's your pile, Mitch. Here's your pile, Brian. Go on your
mm,
separate ways. He's not going to say, Brian, you got to work with Mitch, or Mitch, we're going to give
yes.
you the business and Brian's going to buy you out. He's not going to say that. So
Yeah.
you need an agreement that addresses those kind of issues. If you want to leave, if you die, if you become disabled, if you get sued and now somebody's trying to sue the business and sue you or getting divorced or whatever it is, got to address those things. And then like you said, who makes what decisions? I had a guy come to me years ago. He's in a family business, right? So his dad started this small business. He took it over with his brother. It was some sort of delivery truck thing they did with universities. I don't remember. But over
Mm,
the years, they built up to a big business. It was doing like 80 or $100 million a year in revenue.
wow.
Maybe it was 10 or 15% profit margin. But over the years, what happened was he grew the company. He's now the president of the company. His brother basically did nothing. He wasn't,
But
it
he's
wouldn't
still
work.
getting paid.
He got 50% of the company. So he says,
Yeah.
so how do we get my brother to, I go, I don't know how you're going to get you. If I was your brother, you'd be stupid to make an agreement now.
Yeah. He's got it good.
Got it real good. He comes and go, we'd have meetings. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't sit in the meeting. I got to go. I'm getting a haircut. And this guy would like look at me and look at the guy. You see what I told you? I go, yeah, but you made your own bed.
Hmm.
You
Yes.
just kept growing the business, didn't set up any rules.
Yeah. And
So,
this is the
yeah.
thing. It becomes terrible when if you have partners who are in your fighting.
Yeah. Especially if you're
It's,
related.
well, that is the
It's even
addendum
worse.
to my partnership thing is when it comes family, money will ruin a friendship. It'll also
Yeah.
ruin it'll put strain on a family
Right.
relationship.
Yeah.
And I've known people who said, well, my brother, he'd had trouble keeping a job. So we decided to do this together. And I'm like, well, maybe you weren't really thinking about why he couldn't keep a job.
Right. There must be a reason.
Yeah.
It's not because of his strong work ethic.
Yes. What's one of the other ones? Well, the customer service blunders that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Look, don't get into pissing matches with your customers. Sometimes you're going to run into people who are intentionally trying to game the system. It just happens. And in that case, you can try and maybe make a deal with them. Look, I'll give you, 30%, whatever it is, if it's a service or business, I'll give you 30% off or whatever. But you cannot just stonewall and because that's going to end up online now. It's never been easier to damage your business than it is now.
Yeah.
You go back to the 70s and 80s, that was a little harder. You had to send it off to the Better Business Bureau.
Right. You had to go out of your way.
Yeah.
Now it's easy. Yeah.
Now it's done in 30 seconds.
Yeah. No, every contract I do for clients has a non-disparagement clause that says you're not going to post bad things about me and I'm not going to post bad things about you, because that's the best you could do, right? I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yes. Yes. One of the other ones, this one's really important for your health. I said, you cannot micromanage your business. I know that you want everything done your way and you came up with all the policies and all of the ways of doing it. I said, teach the people to do it. They're not going to do it exactly like you because that's not human.
Right.
So, but as long as they're getting things done, as long as they're getting it, you can, slowly figure out how to get them doing it a little bit more your way. But if you micromanage, you are going to be exhausted. You're going to start hating your business. Remember the don't fall in love with your business. Well, you're going to feel like you're in a marriage that you can't get out of.
Of course.
It's already exhausting owning a small business.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to see your family. You need to be able to do other things, and you need to find those people that you can trust, that you don't have to micromanage.
And you know what, Bryan? I found that with business owners, when they start giving their employees they empower them to, feel some ownership to do, they do it better. Sometimes they do it better because they're out in the trenches, not you anymore. And they're surprised. They're like, oh, Bryan's doing a great job. I'm surprised he was able to
think about the times when you were younger and somebody kept being over your shoulder and telling you were doing it wrong. Eventually you're like, you know what? I can't make this person happy.
Right,
you do it. And so you're right. They start giving up. But if you give them some leadership and this person trusts me, I don't want to let them down, you will get much more out of them, and you will get some peace and quiet occasionally, because you still need to have time off. There's so many people I know of small businesses, they work 7 days a week.
Yeah, they to equip their business where it's reliant completely on them, which basically means that you happen to be an owner and an employee just at the same company.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to someone like 3 years ago. He said, I'm about to have hip replacement. I don't know what to do. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I work most of the time at my business. I haven't really trained anyone to run it. And I said,
what is he going to do?
That was short-sighted. You need a manager. Is there nobody who's been at your business more than 6 months? He said, no. I said, well, that's really. I said that I've had hip replacements, so the good news is that unless you need to lift something, you can hobble in on the walker and sit there at the desk. So
right, but isn't that a reward? Like if you're a small business owner, that's one of the things you want. That's a goal, right?
Yeah,
that you don't have to go in every day, that you can take Fridays off, that you can do whatever you want, because it's
supposed to be freedom.
You pay. Yeah, but if you equip it where you're working 7 days a week, you work yourself to the bone. You might as well just go get a job. Like, what's the point?
Yes.
Let's
see. I did payroll. Okay. Undervaluing your business, particularly your product. So this gets trickier. This is like something that I've had experience.
Well, pricing?
Yeah. So a lot of times there's two different thoughts on this from a lot of people. Some people want to charge more because they want to make more. But you should understand that there's a threshold, a tipping point where eventually you'll make less.
Right.
Your job is to find that.
The value perception is just not there.
Right. And that changes sometimes based on the economy. The other thing too, though, is that valuing it too low has its pitfalls also, because you may be working harder because you did bring in more business, but you're not making enough to make that extra work worth it. Now you're working your ass off and you're making 3%, 5%.
Right.
And so you've got to find, not always getting more people through the door
makes sense.
It makes sense. You've got to think that through. The other thing, and I have talked to so many people who have had the same experience. So my ex-wife and I had the largest wedding video company in the state of Georgia for many years.
Wow.
We typically pretty high end stuff. We had a lot of athletes and whatnot. But when it was slow, occasionally someone would come through and say, well, I want it for this price. I'm just telling you, 90% of the time, that customer, you have just given them the belief that you're negotiable for everything.
Right.
And now they become the highest maintenance customer you've had all year.
Oh, yeah.
Because now they're like, well, what else can we get?
Right. The first compromise is there. The next one's around the corner as far as they.
Yes. You've made it a negotiation.
They have a perception that your business should be negotiated. You don't do that with your doctor. And if you're the guy who lowers your price, then they're like, well, how good could Bryan's service be if he's willing to do, you know what I mean? I mean, you got to have some value. It runs both ways.
So maybe you give a little discount, but when who was it? I was a guy who was doing roofing who it was slow and he cut it down by like 50%. And then he's like, suddenly the customer wanted all this extra stuff included. And I said, well, that's because you made it a negotiation.
Right.
And you didn't put it in there that ends here.
Right.
Okay, you wrote in there that you would fix things like soffit and other things if they were damaged. He said, but they're not damaged. I said, I know, but now you got to convince them of that.
Right.
They want the soffit fixed so they have brand new soffit, even though they don't need it because you told them it was a negotiation.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a tricky thing because like I said, you don't want to overvalue. And a lot of times this is why a business plan is also good. a lot of, you know what the most common thing when I say, well, how did you set your prices? Well, the guy down the road has the same price.
Right.
And so I had
There's
this,
no
there used to
reason,
be
no
a
real reason.
Subway shop near me. It was a father, it was a father, a husband and a wife.
Okay.
And then I said, well, why did you set your price that way? They said, because Subway. And I said, but you're not Subway. Subway's a franchise. They
Right.
get deals on food that you don't get. And I said, and people know that you make them by hand and that it's a little bit more.
You're going to pay more money. Right.
Yeah. So it's okay to be a little higher.
Right.
But you cannot compete with Subway. That would be like me opening a convenience store and trying to compete with Walmart's prices.
Right. You
That's
can't
not
do it.
happening.
No. You go out of business.
Yes. So you've got to come up with your pricing that works for you. And if it won't work because the competition is too stiff, it just is what it is. I had a gym that got put out of business by a larger gym, a mega gym. Nothing I can do about that.
No. And
They
maybe
outspent me.
if the mega gym existed first, maybe they shouldn't have opened their gym and they should have done the work
Yes.
at a time. I find it very common with professionals, people that charge for their time, or maybe they charge flat fees, but the professionals, they always undervalue what they do. And then, people come to them and they get clients who are looking for cheap services or don't have a lot of money to pay for your services, or can I do it over time? Or, I always say to people, listen, if Brian referred you, I'll give you a little bit of a break, but I have a lot of clients that are paying me money. I don't work without a retainer. I'm sorry, when you have the money, come back. And, maybe they go somewhere else. But at the end of the day, like you said before, they're just going to be more work.
Yes.
For
Yes.
you.
You've set the tone right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So marketing budgets, partnerships, love your business, don't love it. Oh, hiring friends and family. We went over that. And then I put in the whole valuing a mentor. Find somebody that's doing what you're doing and hook up with them and just talk to them. Most people, particularly if it's somebody who's been established for a while, they'll talk to you and tell you everything they're doing. They're not worried about you. I mean, having said that, you don't go out and find somebody you're competing with who's three blocks over. You want to find somebody who's doing what you want to do and is in a place that you want to get to, and have them be the person that you mirror.
Yeah, no, you definitely need.
I think
mentors, you need advisors.
Just gets lost in the mix. I think too many people are afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of people get nervous just about asking strangers for help.
Right. Yeah, especially nowadays. Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, what the hell are they thinking when they
Yes.
ask?
Well, and the other thing too, I always warn people, there's a lot of information online. That doesn't mean it's all good.
Right. Of course not. Yeah. That's the problem, right? There's so much information available. You got to kind of decipher what you should be doing. But you know what I find, Brian, if you read enough stuff and you look at enough people, there are consistencies. Like some of the stuff we're talking about today, I've talked about on hundreds of shows, because having a business plan and laying things out and making lists and being good with customers and all that kind of stuff are the building blocks for a good business.
Yes.
Having agreements with your partners, making sure everything's clear, that you're transparent. All that kind of stuff runs.
Well, it's the Tony Robbins thing. I heard an interview with him one time, and actually, I'll go back to my mentor. One day he told me he was going to see Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, it was great.
And he said to me, this is the third time I've seen him. And I said, when I was young, I was like, what? Why do you want to see him 3 times?
Right.
He said, well, I've seen Anthony Robbins twice. I'll be seeing Zig 3. And he mentioned some other gentleman. He said, because everything that they say, I've already heard. But just like going to church and being, or having someone remind you what being a good person is, you need to constantly have somebody keep you on the path, on the track, keep you heading in the direction. He said, every time you hear somebody who's a motivational speaker, you may listen to him and go, well, of course. But if you were already doing it, it wouldn't resonate with you.
Right.
And it's because we can hear lots of things. It doesn't mean we actually put them into practice. And sometimes you have to be reminded over and over and over.
Right.
And then throughout your life, you probably need to be reminded of a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because life kicks us in the ass occasionally, and we start going in a different path. And
I always find
most days, it's just varying degrees.
Of course. That's the irony of life. Like when things are high and you're sailing, everything's great. Watch out for that 2x4. It's going to hit you in the head.
Yeah.
Bad. That's the other side, right? If things are really tough, the sun will shine another day. You keep doing the right things and build your business, and it'll turn around. Well, Bryan, I can't thank you enough on a Friday afternoon, sharing your thoughts with me. And and what's the best way for people to kind of connect with you and interact with you?
The easiest way, because it has all the other connections listed on it, is my website. It's Bryan, Bryan, Thomas, Thomas, Wetzel, WETZEL.com.
All right, we'll put a link.
And then from there, you can find my Substack, you can find my Twitter, whatever you want to find, or X.
Cool. We'll put all those links in the show notes. We'll put the Scubes link so people can see the videos if they want. And keep spreading the good word. I appreciate you spending time with me.
You too. I enjoyed it.
In addition to being a podcast host, I'm also a small business attorney, mostly providing legal services in New York and New Jersey. With over 3 decades of experience, we can handle most transactional issues. So if you're watching the show and you encounter some sort of legal issue, reach out to us and visit our website, beinhakerlaw.com. Thanks for tuning into the show and for continuing to support us.